What is up, everybody? Look who it is. I got Kyle Wilson here, man. I was a huge fan of you back in the day. I remember when we had like 100 subs, you were like retweeted me one time, and I was like, no way, like Kyle Wilson just retweeted us. And now I get to have you on my channel, man. So, like, you're just so intelligent. You've got so much experience, expertise, and obviously, you're on Paul Barron now. You're moving up, man, really, really quickly. But yeah, thanks for coming on, dude.
Man, it's a pleasure. It's a long time coming, man, and it feels like homecoming coming to your channel and being a part of the podcast. I see you like, man, putting in work and one of my favorite channels, of course, man. And again, it's a long time coming. So happy to be on today.
Oh, I really appreciate that, bro. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little jealous, man. I saw you like on the Paul Barron network, and I was like, damn, like this looks so professional. Like I knew it was just a matter of time for you, but like, do you mind explaining a little bit about like that connection and how that came to be?
Yeah. I mean, man, that was kind of a match made in heaven, if you will. But it's creating content. I've always wanted to be in this field, and it was a dream come true to work for Paul. But I was just on Paul Barron's channel commenting. Paul would actually join my channel, like when I was streaming and live and checking out my stuff, and commenting even on my chat. And I was like, oh my gosh, like Paul Barron's like here. And so I just addressed him publicly and was like, we love Paul Barron in the VV community. And of course, Paul tweeting and like the Omi homies go in. Like if you support the VV and the Omi homie fam, you're gonna get love. And Paul noticed that, and his team, and they love VV too. They Paul's team invest into VV and has VV collectibles. So it was kind of a dream. I wanted to work for Paul actually, and lo and behold, I got an email one day from Paul, and I was like, "Holy smokes! Like this is insane!" I was like, "What are the odds?" Like, and so right away, I jumped on the opportunity, and again, match made in heaven, man. So it was awesome.
Wow, that's so damn cool, man. And like, what is like the requirements, I guess, for this role? Like, I think you said you're doing like a number of different things, but what does that like break down into? Is it like article
Yeah.
writing or like podcasting? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I do quite a bit for Paul, weekly. So I do blog posts. So I'll do like a lot of the research behind those blog posts, very informative. And check it out, by the way, it's awesome.
Yeah, I
But
definitely will.
that covers, we cover a lot of topics, crypto, NFTs, macro as well. We zoom out on the space. And then, of course, I do a weekly podcast once a week for Paul as well for his Substack members. And then, of course, the once a week, I'm typically on the YouTube channel as well. So quite a bit of tasks to do week in and week out. And I mean, sky's the limit from that. So
It's crazy. And his channel's massive, right? It's like over 230K subs, right? Or something like that.
yeah, it's like, I think
Yeah.
it's like 363. I don't know. It's
Oh my
growing.
God.
So
See, that's what I mean.
yeah.
I probably only looked at that like a few months ago and it's already had that much growth, right? Man,
Yeah.
and it's so professional. What I've realized too is like traditional media now doesn't have the same impact that it used to have. Like people are like flocking to these like more up and coming news companies that are like on YouTube or doing podcasts because I feel like they're more authentic and they're not driven by like external factors. Like people are actually trying to understand the space and do what's best for their members, you know?
Yeah. It's totally like objective news and news that you
Yeah.
can, that these creators like aren't necessarily getting paid to do like, well, they are, but it's like a sponsorship. But really the creator has the opportunity to deliver how they want to and how they feel about it and give their own topics versus, being hired by some big company and giving what they think, about a certain topic. So
Right.
um yeah, it's definitely the creator economy is massive. I mean, it's set to be one of the largest, I guess job markets in the world, just being a creator. So,
Wow.
again, it's been a dream come true.
So damn cool, man. And Paul's super bullish on VV too. Like I saw his RoboCop tweet that like VV retweeted. Did you kind of like did he see your videos first potentially and then was like, "Oh, I really like this," or he just kind of found out about it and was like, "This is a winner," or how did that? Do you know anything about that?
I don't know how the initial days. I mean, I'm assuming he probably saw a lot of my videos and a lot
Yeah.
of the other content creators in the space. They do know about some of the other VV content creators for sure. But yeah, early on, I was just checking out content, so I assume they have seen some videos. I don't know how they got started, honestly, but Yeah, that's probably how it happened, and they've been locked in ever since, and they know the drops, like the upcoming drops. They look at the tweets. I mean, yeah. So, but yeah,
Oh,
back in not that long ago, I was covering VV like nonstop. Like every drop, I was like putting a
I
YouTube
remember
short out or putting a video out. So,
that.
yeah.
Wow, man. And I guess talking about some of these drops, we got, today Finding Nemo. I think, at first I wasn't that convinced about it. And then I saw that the secret rare version had like 265 editions or something of the Dory, which is the only painting with Dory. So I was like, oh, they're getting clever. Like I think a lot of people are gonna miss that. But are you going for today's drop or are you skipping it?
I don't know. I'm kind of
Mhm.
saving my gems at this point, and so
Same.
we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know
I,
yet.
I'm
If
skipping
I
it.
say I go for it, then everybody's gonna go for
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
So
exactly. I know. And then Rambo too, right? 2,400
yeah,
editions though. What do you think for that one?
I'm not going for that one. No,
Oh
no,
yeah, yeah,
I'm going for
exactly.
that one.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going for Rambo.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Same here, bro. I mean, it's still the only thing I find is, and I don't know if you find this, but I find the animation doesn't look the best. Like it looks good,
Mhm,
but I just find it looks kind of like a PlayStation 2 kind of graphics. I'm like, and I know it's like difficult to make an NFT that like is like looks super real life, but I just
mhm.
find like depending on the NFT from VV, some I find are like exceptionally pristine. And then like I'll give you an example like that Miles Morales SR in augmented reality looks amazing.
Yeah.
As some others just don't look as good. So it kind of goes back and forth. I don't know what you think, but
Yeah, it is weird, and I think they have probably a couple of studios behind the scenes, and I'm assuming maybe one studio is like incredible, and maybe one's not as incredible.
yeah,
Maybe they're trying to, I don't know, and of course they do have some of these assets. I believe some of them come directly from either like the movie or the game itself or something like that. I think we've seen a couple of examples of that before in the app. So maybe there's some nostalgia there. I don't know. This could be created specifically for VV in terms of the Rambo one,
yeah.
but yeah, I'm always curious about that too. And the one thing I do kind of hold back is like if we do see these in Unreal Engine, they could be upscaled. So I'm kind
Mm,
of holding out a little bit there. Like I do think some of them are obviously the Miles is just like super incredible.
yeah.
There's been a few pieces that have been super incredible as well, but I'm very curious what my 3090 GPU could do to some of these assets and scale them up using accelerated graphics and everything like that. So
Damn. See, Kyle, you know a lot about the space. So can you kind of explain that for people what that means? Because like I'm like so I guess these assets can improve, I guess, over time depending on what happens, right? Like so like how would that even work, I guess?
yeah, so like for example, some NFTs can already be ported into like places like Spatial. Ready Player Me is
Mm,
probably one of the best examples there. But yeah, over time, what we could see is more support for accelerated graphics and things like that. So if you port in an asset, and Kay is probably way better explaining this, or Trevor
yeah.
or anything, but you can upscale some of these graphics depending on your platform of choice. So if you're using a mobile phone, of course the graphics aren't going to be as top notch and not scaled, accordingly to, or it's going to be scaled accordingly to your device. So again, if I'm on a computer, I have like, overpowered graphics card that can upscale that, use accelerated graphics to make the asset look like, super amazing and killer. And
Mm,
so that's what the benefit of like using Unity or Unreal Engine on some of these assets is the benefit. Like Vivi uses Unity. Technically, they're chain agnostic with cavernous, which
mm,
actually I find very interesting because that means that the assets could be interoperable among experiences. So I can take my Todd McFarlane Batman, for example, and say like Vivi partners with another like experience, like I don't know, Disneyland experience. Well, maybe Disney lets us have our assets portable to another experience because that's their IP and brand. So they say, yeah, why not?
wow.
Then Cavernous would basically allow that character or asset into that place, and then it'd be upscaled via your GPU or your settings on your actual device. So, and anyways, it could get
Wow.
very interesting very quickly. In a
Wow.
nutshell.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I only understood about half of that, but I get the premise because it is pretty amazing and complex. But at the same time, what I'm understanding is that like when you buy this VV NFT or an NFT rather, you're not just buying this stagnant piece in history where it's just gonna sit there. Like there's like you said,
Mhm.
potential for so much, and that's why I've always believed in like Marvel, Disney, all these huge IP. Because I'm like you said, what if it happens in the future where it's not only like upscaled improvements? What if you could like spawn a skin in a video game? Like all these things get me excited. Like I feel like when you're buying these things, people have this like very limited view right now. It's like, oh, it's locked in the VV app, it's not going to do anything. But I don't think people understand like what digital ownership could mean in like 10 to 20 years, and like the amount of like spider web effect where it's like by
Mhm.
owning that, maybe you have all these different perks in different places. So
Yeah, and there's other platforms already doing that, making them portable. What were existing, just quote unquote static NFTs, now they're not. And so we're seeing this play out across the board. And again, Ready Player Me is a great example of the level of interoperability that they could go
mhm.
into. And we know that other big players are entering the space. And what we could see is like it play out in fashion where you buy a jacket, for example, it comes with a digital NFT variant as well and drops that into your account, and then it connects to Ready Player Me. So not only do you have a physical jacket, but now you have a digital jacket to put on your avatar to go into spatial and all these other different metaverses that it's interoperable in. And guess what? Vivi's using Ready Player Me. So they're using that in the Viviverse. So people better take
Mm,
notice of that pretty quick because we could see fashion around the corner drop on Vivi in terms of jackets, cosmetics, things like that. So,
damn. Okay, this is interesting. Let's get into
mhm,
that because so here's my question is like I'm really curious. I'm like in the future if people are going to be using their like actual digital collectibles as their skins, right?
mhm.
Like can you walk around as like Spider-Man or like Batman, or are you going to be like using, like you said, these avatars that you can have like these upgraded accessories and then showing people those digital collectibles, or is it going to be potentially like a mix and match, like some people doing some things and others doing other, like any thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, that's tough to say.
Yeah.
I think it's going to come down to the brand, and the company. So I'm a little bit more bullish on the Disney side actually, because
Mm,
with Bob Iger at the helm, that changes the game for me. I mean, Bob Iger was literally an advisor at Genie's who does cosmetics. Period. I mean, they do fashion.
right.
So he's literally on the advisory board of a fashion metaverse company that will probably be interoperable with Ready Player Me. And so when I look at that, I look at the opportunities that they could work with Vivi on something like that. And maybe if you own a certain NFT, maybe you get that airdrops. We know Disney has been accepting of airdrops, so I wouldn't put them past it. I don't know if
Yeah.
we see that type of strategy until maybe a big player, maybe they do see in Amazon and they're like, well, shoot, we're going to do this too. And we're going to do it our way. And so we could see something like that, but it is hard to say. And I don't know if we will be able to technically use our characters, but if you own that character, that might unlock something, for your avatar. So I could see like that cross type of collaboration or type of marketing play.
Yeah.
But it's too hard to say because it's too early. But again, companies get motivated by seeing competitors do other things, so it'll get interesting really quickly, I think.
I think that's a great point you make. I think like because everything else is going to become so competitive, these big brands, if they want to stay relevant, will have to compete. Will
Mhm.
have to do things like potentially like interoperability or what have you in order to kind of keep up with the action, right? So, and why are you so bullish? I guess Kyle on VV, and then obviously want to pick your brain about a lot of other things, but I guess we could start off like with VV to start.
Yeah, so with Vivi, I've been through the crypto crash of 2018 and
Yeah.
Bitcoin and seen the major coins kind of take a dip. But I think the macro of that, when what I learned from it was like, if you just literally just hold on to what you got, it's going to come back around. And not only is it going to come back around, like in the bull market, things just take off. And when I look at Vivi, and I think my collectible said this the other day on his stream, he's like, I'm not investing into the team. I'm investing into these NFTs and these collectibles that have a proven legacy. And again, people buy what they know, trust, and love. Like by default, I'm a marketer. I've been a marketer for 10 years. And what I've learned in that is you have to be able to prove right away that you're knowledgeable, that you're trustable, and then that somebody can trust you. And so that's very important. Brands have this advantage of being around for decades and literally, almost 100 years at this point with Marvel, DC, and Disney.
Yeah.
And when people get into the space, the brands that they're going to gravitate towards are the brands that have been around for decades. And so that's why I'm so bullish about it, because when I'm looking at that, plus you add on the significance and the history behind some of these collectibles, first appearance of Batman, first appearance of Walt and Mickey, first appearance of Spider-Man. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like that gives me goosebumps just saying that out loud.
Yeah.
So when I look at VV, yes, I wish they would deliver on timelines. I wish that, that they had Mitch 2 years ago versus like, less than a year ago. And I wish all these things. But again, this is the part of the process. It's no coincidence we're in a bear market, crypto winter. We're seeing FTX collapse, all these things. VV, obviously missed some timelines. Guess what? That's literally a part of the process, because that shows that we're in the bear market, right? And I think people forget that. And we forget like some of this like that the collapse of FTX. Hey, that's a part of it. Like that was a catalyst for the bear market. So everything was going to cool off eventually and correct, but you needed these catalysts to drive that down. And so if you're wise and you were able to kind of predict that and know that, or you saw what was happening, you could have got out and saved a lot of money there. And same thing with NFTs and collectibles and things like that. We're still seeing it play out right now with some of the other like Dapper and NBA Top Shots and all these other, platforms as well. Silvergate Bank just collapsed, and that was like providing, fiat cash out to these NFT platforms, essentially, proxy to Circle. Again, this is a part of the process. So on the other side, there's going to be a bull market eventually. And if you just held on to your assets, you're probably going to be fine. Not financial advice, but like I've seen a thing or two, and I know a thing or two about crypto crashes.
Wow, man. I mean, it's so good, hearing it from somebody who's went through it and, like you said, has been there before and has seen the, meteoric rise right after the bear market. And, like you said, I think perfectly is like, despite what your thoughts are on the team, and I think, we obviously love what they're doing, but I know that there's been some missed timelines. But it's like, do you believe in the IP? Because like Amazing Fantasy 15, Hulk #1, like all these different comics and things that have like stood the test of time for decades, if not almost 100 years, like are gonna probably be extremely important. And kind of similar to what you said earlier about My Collectibles, I remember he said also this is like the golden age, right, of collecting. Like this is a once in a lifetime opportunity before the masses understand what's at stake, that you're having all these crazy first appearances on the blockchain, and then they're done, right? Like once they all come out in 3-4 years from now and everybody else wakes up, they're going to be like, okay, where's the good ones at? Be like, sorry.
Yeah, and I'm really shocked. I'm really shocked that like even now, like in the bear market, we're still seeing grails like sell, like Superman, for example #1 that sold. We're seeing AF-15 still sell at a high price. The grails are still moving around. Like I see Sergio firing off tweets about this grail, that grail sold. So again, this isn't a bear market. That's actually shocking to me to see that, and it's exciting too because it's showing that there's opportunity there. But what's going to happen in a bull market? You think these are going to just stay low like they are, or I think they're going to obviously push up to a higher price. Not financial advice again, but yeah. So when we zoom out too in the space, what I'm seeing is some big moves, and we're talking Bitcoin ordinals, the first Bitcoin ordinals going for hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think Basie got into ordinals and was like flipping an ordinal, and it sold for like, I think they made 16 million off that sale or something crazy.
That's crazy.
And yeah, like if you zoom out, the first of anything on the blockchain is significantly important. Crypto punks, you have crypto kitties back then that were going for tons and tons of money. And now you have big crypto or NFT archaeologists that actually go back and they research the first of this, the first of that, the first, XYZ. And now, there's this culture now around the first this, the first that. And it's already playing out in the macro. So I'm starting to see a trend here of even physical collectors starting to take notice. And I saw one of the collectible guru talk about how Neymar, like the most expensive card is actually not physical, it's a digital. And so we're seeing this transition slowly but surely with physical collectors coming into digital.
Right. Amazing. And like you said, this has been a proven concept time and time again, even with like CryptoPunks. And now we're starting to see it like trickle into the licensed digital collectible space. And so I guess like, some of the biggest deterrence right now seems to be that like a lot of these collectibles that are significant aren't necessarily interoperable yet. And you see it on like things even like Palm as well, with like Superman #1. And I know the goal for a lot of them is to go there. But do you think that's one of the biggest deterrents? Because like for me, when I look at some of this proven IP in the real world, I'm like, oh well, I already know that sells for millions of dollars. So for me, it's almost like a safer bet than to invest into something that's like speculative in crypto.
Mhm.
Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, in a perfect world, you want like swaps and like all these like back then in crypto it was kind of the same thing. Like before there was what was called atomic swaps, you couldn't really do cross chain swaps. There was no Uniswap back then. There was
Wow.
literally nothing. And so it was just like you had to go to a centralized exchange, and that was it. There's no liquidity pools, no this, no that, no fancy DeFi back then. So again, we're in the times of being early, and that's a part of the process once again. And if that's what's holding some people back from investing or dropping, some money into and collecting these, then that's fine because that's opportunity for somebody else that knows the trajectory of where things are going to go. Because what we are going to see is these types of swaps, these types of cross-chain compatibility, and we're already seeing it play out right now. Pudgy Penguins has this type of interoperability among chains. Like there's people out there building these types of protocols, and it's still super early. But again, that could be an opportunity for smart people to use that as their opportunity.
Unbelievable. Kyle, man, I got a question for you here from one of my subscribers. So Steve Friedlander says, "What are your thoughts on Starbucks? Did you get the stamps yesterday? Were you aware of that?"
Yeah, sorry, I got something in my mouth there.
No, it's fine.
No, I'm aware of it. I actually tried to log in and it was like error. So I was like, oh no. So I forgot to log in. I don't know if they're sold out or not, but I definitely want to try to snag one. Yeah, I'm excited about that. So we'll see.
Yeah. And what other like other current like market opportunities are there that you're like currently looking at? Because I know you do such a wide scope of not just VV but like everything, Web3, gaming, etc. Like, what are your let's say top 3 projects right now that you're kind of really interested in?
Oh man, so I've always been in the Neo Tokyo, and that was a NFT project that like was kind of founded by Alex Becker and Elio Trades. But the
Mm,
reason why I really got into that was they were into NFT gaming, and I was always bullish on NFT games. I covered it super early on my channel back in the very infant days of some of these like gaming blockchains like Engine and one of Animoca's brands or platforms they invested in. So I've always been like super into that idea of like owning a sword in game, and and then it's worth a bunch of money and you actually own it, and how cool that would be. Like Ready
mhm,
Player One. And I've been looking a lot around the NFT gaming space, collecting, kind of looking into the more blue chip, type of games. Really bullish on mobile games, as a matter of fact, too. So I
oh,
think a lot of people are sleeping on mobile games because it makes up 70% of all like gaming revenue, and it beats
wow.
out PC, consoles, like all of that. So I'm kind of like weighing my odds there a little bit on that and kind of speculating, but that's kind of my new thing too is collecting like Web3 game NFTs.
Dude, that is so fucking bullish because I'm like, I'll give you an example. I'm not gonna ever buy a PS5, not because I can't. It's because I don't want to waste the time. Like, I don't want my wife coming in and seeing me on my PS5, right? But I could hide on the train to work or like, on my phone, pretend I'm texting and be playing a game. So it's a lot more like accessible. So I get that piece, right? And
Yeah.
the thing that's crazy to me is like I even learned when I was doing an interview for Zynga actually for like a director of community position there for a new NFT thing they were creating, which never materialized, but it was a cool process. And they were telling me that they have like whales spending, millions and millions of dollars on some of their mobile games. Like I'm talking
Yeah.
like just like car games or like whatever, right? And I didn't believe them. I was like, yeah, right. Like, because I'm like, what if that app gets deleted? And they're like, oh
Mhm.
well, they're in touch with support. And I was like, man, like these people need these to be NFTs for it to be worth their while because it's so dangerous in my opinion, right?
Yeah, totally. And that's again, that goes back to ownership, not only just in games, but literally the base level of the metaverse or Web3. People are going to want to own their stuff. I mean, at a rudimentary level, like people are always like, why would I want to be in the metaverse, or why would I want to be playing this game or whatever? It's because you want to own your stuff, right? And I
Right.
think that when you have augmented reality, VR, Web3 gaming, like all basically connected at some point, like people are going to want to own that. And brands are going to want people to own things too, because they make money, royalties, and it's less waste. And they don't have to, like, it's going to solve a lot of these supply chain issues as well. So again,
Mm,
that's why I'm so excited about it, because we're seeing interoperability kind of be built out with some of these platforms, especially Ready Player Me being one of my favorite
yeah.
platforms.
Wow. And that's why I'm so bullish on these collectibles, because I see the opportunity for them to actually be like moving and animated and used it. Like, like whereas like a comic, I'm like, although it has like a higher in real life value, like for some of them, I'm
Mhm.
just like, I just don't know how the use case can be like adopted into like, let's say like one of these metaverses that you're talking about. Like, like you can read your comic in augmented reality, you could sell it, whatever. But I'm like, it's not like you can run around with it, or it's not like it could be used in a game. I mean,
Right.
maybe like, do you know what I'm trying to say? So that's where I'm like looking at like the extension of some of these collectibles and being like, oh, I think there's potential, maybe more potential than there could be for like a comic, which is really nostalgic and obviously a great thing to own. But I don't know. Like, I'm just trying to play that game too. Be like, where could these go?
Yeah, to me, it makes more sense as well, like having an actual character, and then if you own that character, it's a playable asset in the game.
Yeah.
Even Sandbox, they're doing a great job about that, where they're working with projects that are doing exactly that. Like if you own an NFT of that character, you get that actual avatar in Sandbox and be able to play in that metaverse and have fun. And Sandbox, they're working with a lot of brands. I mean, major, celebrities, brands, Paris
Mm,
Hilton, Snoop Dogg, Hell's Kitchen, tons of all these like major mainstream like shows, brands, and they're allowing players to come in and earn sand. And maybe VV partners with Sandbox one day. So we just don't know. We're so early. I mean, they could do Decentraland. They could do, obviously we know they're going to do VV verse. Like that's not a question.
yeah.
And we don't know how far they're going to take the VV verse. We've heard them say that there could be like these types of in like VV verse type of utility, and I don't know. Like the sky could be the limit with the BB-verse. We'll see. So
Right. And I keep hearing that, like they'll be able to take other assets in as well. So it could be another like major competitor, right?
yeah.
But do you see like in kind of like your other investing that the relative proportion of people that were like invested in the bull cycle have dropped just as significantly that you see in VV? Like we look at like the daily active wallets, I think in VV was like 2,600 yesterday, maybe 15,000 a month. Do you kind of see that same kind of like dip across all the other projects, or is there one that is still doing the unthinkable and it's still just as engaged as it was in the bull cycle, or is that like not even close to?
No, I mean across the board. I mean, if you're looking at NFT platforms, you're looking at
Yeah.
games, metaverses, experience, they're all down. I mean, it's all down across the board. So VV isn't like special, like it's not like, oh, only VV like is the daily active users are down. No, it's literally the entire crypto ecosystem, the entire NFT ecosystem in general. And again,
Yeah.
that's just the bear market. And for me, when I my favorite setup on a chart, or when I'm looking at to get into an investment or a trade or whatever, I'm looking at the volume. And if the volume is really low, I'll actually like to get in, especially if the project I think is like a blue chip. I believe in it.
Mhm.
I've researched the team and I've done my due diligence. I look at the volume and wait for it to be low. And I also wait for the token to be low too. And that's when I like to get into stuff. And for when I see VV charts, I see like I put up a chart of the Spider-Man, and we look at the Todd chart. Like these things are when I like to enter. So when I
Yeah.
look at them, I look at them completely different from some other person that would see like, oh, look at this. This is a terrible chart. For me, I'm like, I get excited because I'm like, this is perfect. This is my favorite setup on a chart. So but I've been trading since years. I mean, I've been trading stocks, I've been trading forex, I've been trading NFTs now, and so I'm a little bit more advanced than most people. So
Yeah. That's a good point. I think, but it is. I did see your post. I think it was yesterday, and it was like the secret rare Spider-Man and Miles Morales, and it was like the secret rare Spider-Man was like 100K all time high, and now it's like 5K, and then Miles was like I don't know, maybe like 11K now,
Yeah.
and you're like okay, like it seems like this is a pretty good opportunity. And the funny part is, it's like it's almost like reverse psychology. Like in the bull cycle, when things are 80K, people are like, I think this is great. Like let me buy it. And when it's 5K, it's like, oh, it's going to shit. And it's like, well, if you buy at 5K, you're gonna lose maybe 3K max, right?
Right.
So it's like, what's the bigger risk? And it just, you gotta, and I think Danny DeBull said that. He's like, you gotta like change up your psychology. Like now is the buying opportunity, and the bull cycle is the selling opportunity.
Right. And I was looking at the crypto market the exact same way too, and what people were saying, like I've been always saying like you always want to have clean entries. And when I say clean entries is you want to not necessarily time the bottom, but if you're getting into a lower, the position when the price is low, then obviously that's a low risk, high reward scenario where
Mhm.
if you think it's going to do well long term, then to me it's a no-brainer, and that's always served me very well. I've never actually switched up my investing style. Like I've never like really bought at a top. Like I've always been like, hey, these catalysts will just happen. Like if it's a bear market, yeah, expect the FUD, expect the media, expect the news, expect content creators or Twitter, crypto Twitter, NFT Twitter, VV Twitter to be like super in pain, fudding like crazy. To me, that's an indicator of good, because I'm like, yeah, go ahead and FUD that real quick, and I'll just come in and buy some cheap collectibles. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Same here, man. I like you said, you're always looking for the opportunity, whether that be in the bull cycle or the bear market. It's like, where does that arise, you know? And what's super interesting now is that we have a lot of these collectibles that are really low in price because we have a low volume of people, but they're very popular. And one
Mhm.
thing that I noticed from the last bull cycle, it was interesting. When we didn't have a lot of people, it was the scarce items that were held up in value. But as soon as we had a lot more people come in, everything that was like popular with a higher edition like mooned because there was enough volume to come in and support the rise. But
Mhm.
like that's what I find interesting now is a lot of people are still did similar to what we did in the last before it took off before is they were buying the scarce stuff and not looking at the popular IP like because we saw like Todd go to like 9K, Superman to 8K, R2 to 9K, and they have like 7,000 plus editions, right?
Mhm.
So just interesting to like think about that too. And we got Sleeping in the house who says best looking guys on YouTube. I don't know. I
What's up,
think Kyle
sleeping?
I think Kyle takes the cake sleeping for that one, but I appreciate that, my man.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always opportunity, and that's what I was kind of like trying to voice a little bit is like you want to make sure you're kind of hedging your bets as best as possible, like not investing into, I don't know, Hit Monkey. I think we all remember that one.
I do remember that.
And being cautious of that kind of position because, again, like there was the popular ones, like you mentioned, like the Spider-Mans or the Batmans, the Spider-Mans and
Yeah.
things like that, that could have been good plays. And even in bull markets, there was always opportunities on VV when the volume was high where you could have, rotated your position. So,
Mhm.
I noticed like the liquidity would kind of move around in the app. So,
Right.
people would get super excited about Spider-Man one week and then next week they're excited about Superman. And if you were like really smart and you would see that you would be looking at the charts and be like, oh, this one's undervalued, and just rotate. And then sure enough, people would rotate to that one. And so there's always been these like cool opportunities on the app. And I think those
Mhm.
will come back. But again, like the grails have been, they've been selling still. If they weren't selling here in the bear market, I would be a little bit more concerned. But the fact that people are still putting tens of thousands of dollars into the grails shows you that, hey, there's people still here collecting, and that's important.
Yeah, exactly. And it gives confidence to everybody, right? And like
Mhm.
I see these whales stacking, day in and day out, and I'm like, okay, clearly they know something that I don't because they're bullish, right?
Mhm.
And like you said, like that's amazing because if they're already doing like tens of thousands now, I don't know where that is gonna go. And look at Sleep and he goes, I have my wife's YouTube blocked from their channels. That's so funny. He's great. If you guys don't know Sleeping Man, go check out his channel. I'm sure everybody knows him here, but yeah, amazing analysis on everything comics and VV and yeah, great guy. And yeah, Sleeping, it's okay, buddy. I'm I think like I said, Kyle takes the cake.
No.
But he's got a wife too, right, Kyle? And
Yeah.
he's in Web3.
Yeah, she's in Web3 too.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. She actually used to work for Palm a
Oh
while
wow.
back. So yeah, that's a little something there. But yeah, she works in Web3 too.
Interesting. And you know what I like you said earlier was how you said they have like these NFT archaeologists that go back and they like look at the metadata and start to analyze it and everything. Do you think that's just a matter of time before that happens to the licensed digital collectibles as well, where there's like some kind of website created and like somebody's going in there full force, like where's the first Hulk product? Where's the first Star Wars product? And like do you think that would be used as like a reference point for like future collecting kind of thing?
Yeah, I've actually always assumed that was gonna happen eventually. I think somebody made a spreadsheet or made some kind of website around that.
Hmm.
We are actually, I think, seeing it kind of now. But I think what's gonna really like be the catalyst is we'll see not only the kind of NFT archaeologist like merge with collectors. So I think we'll see the two communities come together and merge quite nicely, and we'll see a lot of the physical collectors come in and be, basically what comics and collectibles is doing, is
Yeah.
basically promoting and starting to get really excited, and we're starting to see that guru guy, the collectible guru, starting to showcase these digitals, and the fact that eBay is integrating digital collectibles and Amazon's on the list next.
Woo, woo.
Yeah, now they're gonna be, like, pouring in, I think. Like, I think the floodgates are gonna start, like, dialing open, like, little by little, and then it's just gonna be like, "Whoa," like, all these collectors are just here now. That's crazy. And I
Yeah.
think that's what's going to play out. Obviously, I think it'll take a little bit time. We'll see how Amazon rolls out stuff. eBay's still in the very infancy days. They bought Known Origin, which was an NFT marketplace. They've already integrated another NFT platform literally inside of their marketplace where you can go buy, sell, trade these collectibles. So
Wow.
again, these physical collectors are going to slowly start all of a sudden being like, yo, this is it.
So damn cool, man. And it's super interesting what you said earlier too, because like right now there seems to be like almost like micro influencing that's happening in the market where people like are only buying what like I don't know what the narrative says on VV currently because it's not that many people. So people will be like, oh, let me buy Miles because like that's what everybody loves. But like when you think about macro and like you think about all the potential people coming in, that's where like you have to look at what I guess would appeal to the most people, right? Because like that's the thing right now we're in a small little circle bubble of like different people, but it's like when you think about like we do get the masses, like the 10 plus million people that David Yu talks about, then that's where we could see all these other things that were like, damn, I knew Obi-Wan Kenobi was a big deal. Damn, like you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think about that? Because right now we're in this like tiered audience that's very small and niche, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And we always have to realize too, there's like the younger or the next generation or the generation like right underneath us. What do they like? And again, like if I'm like kind of, I guess, like resetting my mind or like pretending like I'm very new to VV, that's what I kind of put myself into on a day-to-day basis. And I'm like, these are the collectibles I would be interested in if I was new to VV. And that's when I start looking at that. I'm
Yeah.
like, do the addition counts make sense here? Like, does this still a good long term play? That's the stuff I look at. And again, like you're saying, what's popular to some may not be popular to others, but others just make sense. Like some of the obviously comic grails, some of the first appearance characters are going to make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's similar to kind of comic book collecting in a sense that the Black Panther movie will come out, and then the price of the Black Panther comic might push up a little bit. And I think we'll see similar things play out in kind of the metaverse
Mm.
and these first appearance like characters as well. It's like, oh, I own literally the first Batman in the metaverse, like on the blockchain, like provable digital asset. Like I could take this to
Same.
Christie's auction and sell it.
Right.
And I think that's gonna have like, oh, the next Batman movie that comes out, and then they do something cool in the metaverse. We're already seeing it on Roblox. Of course, they're going to do something in the Web3 metaverse, like some promotion or some cool thing.
Mhm.
And of course, they're going to see that you own these assets. Like we're already seeing that with DC and Palm too. So I think that the inverse, we'll see. Disney's obviously only on Vivi. Like,
Yeah.
like hello,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if that's not a telling sign, I don't know what is. Um,
yeah.
and David, you said this actually. Somebody asked here, if Vivi dies, does my inventory die with it? And I think David, you said something to the effect of like, if Vivi went belly up or something, he's like, you would still have ownership. But I guess like Kyle, I guess what do we have? Like, we would still have the metadata, right? That is associated with it. So you might not be able to see your NFT, but like it would still have some kind of ownership. Like, how do you know how that would work? I mean,
Yeah, so technically everybody has a wallet on Vivi. So like it's an
yeah.
IMX compatible wallet, or it's really just an ETH address. And with that ETH address, it's technically your account. You technically own that. It's custodial. Vivi is like the custodian technically right now. But in an event that they die, they could do a number of things. They could literally just give you give you the keys to that wallet, or they just allow you to connect another wallet and just move all your NFTs into that self custody wallet. So there's a lot of like simple things they could do if something like that happened. But again, like yeah, like you said, it's going to be on a Mutascan. And then if people really wanted to, if Vivi like died and they gave us like our assets like that, like just porting them over, then we could either keep them on IMX or probably roll them up to, or some people would roll them up to layer one. So
See, that's really interesting that you say that, because I think that kind of gives people a little more confidence as well. And if anything ever happened, right?
mhm.
And I always look at it as well, like if anything, I guess, happened between some of the licensor partnerships, like if Disney, as an example, like they did with Netflix, is like, hey, we're starting our own Disney channel, or we're doing our own Disney, and we want to pull our NFTs. Technically, they can't take away our ownership, right? Like we bought
Right.
those things, so they would just migrate them from one place to another. So they think, like, that's what we said earlier, is like if you believe in the IP, right, and you own these things, and there's a technical aspect there, then you got it for the long run. So I think that's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I think there'll be a little bit of a pressure on Vivi, to be honest, to make those interoperable just because of what we've seen with NBA Top Shots. So I do
Yeah.
feel that like there will be a little bit of added pressure there to like speed up this process. I've been kind of seeing like the Javier tweets, the spicy tweets, but I think that they'll obviously deliver on the interoperability part. And we've seen platforms like HRO, they already do that. Like you can send it to the marketplace on IMX, and then you can just roll it up to layer one. And Gary V's book NFTs, they do the same thing as well. So
Yeah. And I think, from what I'm understanding, is that there was just more like these technological kind of limitations, and even like licensor limitations currently, that's affected the rapidity and the speed at which they can move these things. And I
yeah.
think that's what, after talking with some of the team, I think that's what the initial struggle was, is that people are
Yeah.
starting to say it's like a lie. And I'm like, no, I think it was just like miscommunication, or they didn't anticipate some of the struggles that would come later on. Like maybe they all had those conversations with licensors being like, yeah, we're all pumped
Mhm.
about this. And then maybe like as things went on, they saw FTX and they saw these things happen, and they're like, wait a second, guys, we can't
Yeah.
lose ownership to the, like, and then maybe that they pumped the brakes on it temporarily, right? So I think like it's not like Vivi hasn't delivered on things, it's just very slow, right? For the
Right.
most part.
Yeah, yeah, like we're obviously seeing like MCP points roll out. We got cash
Yeah.
out. We got all these like features, and as long as you have, you KYC, you did your stuff, like those features are accessible to you. And of course, they have Mitch now, so I believe he's doing really well. So
Mhm.
again, like development takes time, and so if he's having to inherit stuff that like he didn't do, he's gonna have to learn the what was built there, or have to build a process. And I know for a fact, working for an actual literal blockchain with Miria, that's difficult to take over a certain position and
Mhm.
build a structure from scratch. And I had to do exactly that essentially, and build systems and put systems in place. And
Yeah.
not necessarily like Miria, but just in general at several places I've worked at. So I know that can be quite difficult, and I know that's probably what he has been tasked with, is building like something that basically internally from scratch, because he's owning that whole, he's the head of that. So and again, to your point, these brands, they didn't know what to expect. Vivi didn't know what to expect. Kind of a silver lining there, because we've seen Blur, we've seen OpenSea, they're fighting over royalties, and a lot of these
Mhm.
creators aren't even able to make royalties anymore, and that's sad. So when brands look at that, they're going to be looking at Vivi like, okay, let's go ahead and drop on Vivi real quick, because we know we're going to get our royalties. We know we're going to get paid for it. It's highly curated, so the marketplace is other significant brands. And even if Vivi does interoperability, I think most people are just going to keep their assets on Vivi anyways, like what we've seen with HRO, because it really doesn't
Yeah.
make too much sense to just pull them off. And like, sure, you could like do like some transactions over there on layer one or whatever, but for the most part, if you want to connect your wallet up to Viviverse, you're probably going to have it on Vivi anyways.
Dude, I love what you said there, because that's super interesting about that. Because I feel the exact same way. Like I think about it, like even if they are interoperable right now, right? There's a lot of these people that think that these non-popular IP, like things that aren't that significant, are gonna just like moon out of nowhere. And I'm like, guys, like VV has 8 million NFTs. The only things that I could really see mooning are the grails, because they'll be
Mhm.
searchable, because people will like look up, hey, where's Mickey Mouse or where's Superman, right? They're not going to be searching for like Lumpy Space Princess. I mean, maybe there's going to be the odd person that does, but
Yeah.
that's the issue, right? So it's like, and this is the other thing I want, that I'm curious to pick your brain about, is like right now, the grails obviously are significantly priced higher than everything else. But with the master collector program, I believe that the grails are going to go down a little bit in value, because then people can use all that liquidity to go buy up really cheap sets across the board, like get like 20 plus sets, and then all of a sudden get way more of a higher point allocation. And then right now, all the cheap things are obviously the things that are easy to accumulate, but I think MCP will rise the floors. But then if we have interoperability, it's these people that are like on VV thinking that they're going to get all these money for these comics that are being propagated by a system, are going to then be interoperable and be like, why is it not selling for $300 and it's only selling for $5, because it doesn't have that master collector thing? You know what I mean? Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Like, I feel like it's going to change the game.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right on the head with that. I think that there's opportunities now.
Yeah.
You're talking about a bear market. People are putting max pain on VV on crypto Twitter or whatever. But yeah, I'm looking at like these cheap sets, and I'm like, Master Collectors program is going to change the game. Like, you look at a platform like Hero. I don't know if Hero would be as successful without its leaderboard. And matter of fact, Illuvium just launched Illuvium Beyond. It sold out, like, because they have a leaderboard and they have
Wow.
these albums that you can complete, and it gamifies the whole process. I was actually one of the original people that was masterminding the Illuvitar drop, and I actually recommended putting in a leaderboard and gamification system in there. And so they did exactly that. They sold out their disc in a little over a day. 20,000 disc price at almost $200. So they made close to almost 400, or that they did. I'm pretty sure they did make over 4 million on that drop. So, and that's like, we're talking about a Web3 brand that just made IP from scratch. So of course there's going to be some demand on some of these, like, undervalued assets. And again, Chad, that goes back to being kind of wise in your investing, style, is like seeing these opportunities that other people can't see. Whereas somebody might see this as like, oh, they're not delivering, their, MCP's not here or whatever. But actually, that's an opportunity. So again, different perception. For me, it's exciting because I'm like, oh, okay, it allows me to get my paycheck in. It allows me to get paid. Now I can take that, a little bit of my portion of income, and allocate it towards like what I consider as an opportunity. So
That's so smart that you say that. Like, it's always zig when they zag. That's like my
yeah,
favorite quote, is like when everyone's all pissed off and sad and down, I'm like, all right, great. Like
yeah,
let me go the other way. Because like you said, I don't know if you remember, but back in the day, like having a collectible that completed a set on its own was like a massive deal. Like when Superman
hmm
came out, I remember people were making videos like, and don't forget, this completes a set on its own. And now we're like, we're almost spoiled because so many collectibles do that. But when the MCP comes out, people are going to be like, oh, if only I completed more sets, and this Silver Surfer was $35, and like, you know what I mean? This is the kind of conversations people are going to have. So yeah, man, this is really cool. Look, people are loving you, Kyle. Kyle has all the answers. I am sold. uh when when everyone's crying, we should be buying.
Hey, yeah, I like that. That sounds like a Cavell comment, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's crying, we buying.
Chad, zig when they zag. Yeah, man. Yeah, so I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
and
100%. And this
yeah.
isn't necessarily a new concept. Like, there's actually a fear and greed indicator in crypto. So, like, you can go and like Google it, and it actually tracks the fear and greed of the market. And when there's max fear, that's when a lot of people, a lot of investors actually like to start jumping in. And so, like, the kind of the game for investors is like to have some dry powder on, have some money stacked aside for when there's max pain and max fear in the market
Well,
for opportunities. And it never fails. Like, it's always the same, things that people say, and FUD. But again, that's a part of the process and a part of the journey. So
right, man, that's so cool. And dude, one thing I also wanted to let everybody know is like you were the creator of the like red circle movement on social, which I think
yeah.
had like a huge impact, because like all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, like I just remember seeing like almost like tens of thousands, not like hundreds of thousands of red circles. Even content creators that were into VV started putting it beside their name, including myself. Like how did that start, and like how did you get the momentum to like
Man.
yeah.
That was some crazy times, man. I mean, Vivi was popping off at that time.
Yeah.
You know, I was kind of fresh in the app. You know, I actually researched Vivi early in the year that year. I think it was what, 2020 or something or whatever. I don't even remember, 2021. And you know, I think it was March when things really started progressing and the user base like doubled and tripled and quadrupled.
Wow.
And I was like going absolute like all in, like on Twitter, just like super excited about VV. Like, this is a crazy. And of course, I was like making these funny, like fun emojis of spelling out Omi. And one of them was like the red circle. And then somebody else noticed that and started putting it like in their name, and they tagged me. They're like, "Yo, Kyle just did this," and like it. So it really was like this community, snowball thing. So like, yeah, sure, I tweeted it, but really, I mean, the community itself was like going crazy too, alongside with me, and so it went viral, and a lot of people were just like spamming it across Twitter, like, "Yo, add this to your Twitter," like, "Yo," and then before you know it, like thousands of people, and it's like, and
Yeah.
then Non-Fungible Wonderful did a video about it, and it just kept going. It was like, what?
Man,
Oh,
it's insane the influence it had, because even now Vivi's trying to shift to like the blue heart, and instead of people like replacing the circle with that, they're just adding it beside it. So now it's like the
yeah.
red circle and the blue heart. So I mean, it's pretty amazing. I just think it's really interesting because of your background in marketing as well, like how much that kind of helped maybe propagate the space. Like, because obviously there's a lot of people that are here and that are helping, influence the project. But I do think, especially in those early days, like I said, you had like just such a massive impact on it. Because I remember my brother and I think I was telling you, we were like, obsessed with your channel, and like all the big YouTubers like you, Cavell, we were like, oh, taps, like if these guys see our little review video, maybe they'll retweet it. And then like you guys were so supportive, man, like from the get-go. And I think that's why I was like so interested in sticking around, because it wasn't just like you guys were like trying to squash it. You were like helping people that were like nobodies up, and I've always just felt like I want to continue to pay it forward since then. So, kudos to you for that, man. And people are
Yeah.
saying, yeah, salute to Kyle for
I
starting this red
appreciate
circle.
it. Yo, Kryptoni, what's going on, man?
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
yeah, it was a great time, and it's cool that you remember that. A lot of people like came into VV like way later after that, and really don't like remember that whole process and like what we've kind of been through already. We've even witnessed flash crashes, so this is like technically not our first like dip. Like we've
Yeah.
had dips in VV before, but yeah, in the beginning, like just starting from scratch. And I remember when I was starting from scratch with the VV community and how special that felt. And I wanted the first thing I always wanted to do is just lift up other people and help other creators. And I was like, yo, what, all these Web3 or gamers on Twitch, they're having fun. Why not our community? Why not YouTube? Why
Mm.
not us? And so I looked at it as a way of not only building up relationships, but building friendships. And of course, the community, like, look at us now, like everybody's friends. Like there's it's just so cool. It's cool to see. It's cool to be a part of, even in a
It,
bear market.
even in a bear, we're keeping each other warm in the bear market, bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
you know and so I guess, like, everybody always, every time I have a stream, somebody puts in Pokemon somewhere. But I wanted to talk about like the feasibility, Kyle, of something like that, right? Because they have Pokemon Go, right? Which was such a successful thing. I think it had like over 50 million people worldwide that were participating. And back in the day, they had like the augmented reality thing. You could catch things in the wild. Like it was pretty significant. And I'm like, man, if only those were like actual NFTs back then with
Mhm.
Pokemon Go, that were like actual digital like thing. And there was only like 3,000 Lugias and 1,000 Charizards you could find. Like that, I think that would probably be like, the number one thing happening in the world still right now. But would Pokemon just kind of, stick with Niantic and make their own marketplace because they could like yield all the rewards, or do you think they would potentially come to a place like Vivi and and start to like like put everything here? Like, what are your thoughts around that?
It's hard to say. I mean, they could stick to Niantic, but they could also do what Disney's done and is kind of mitigate their own like liabilities and risk per se, and use Vivi, because that does actually make a whole lot of sense, because with NBA Top Shots, they're under a little bit of scrutiny there, and if Disney kind of like pushes their IP out and kind of distance themselves a little bit, maybe Pokemon could do the same. We know that David Yu has a relationship there with Pokemon and was the first entrepreneur in New Zealand to bring Pokemon to New Zealand.
Right.
And Alcon, I mean, look at the team, like very deep connections with Pokemon. So we could definitely see like collectibles, and really we can see how Vivi pushes even further into the space and the narrative of being a really more than just, I don't know, collectibles, but like a trading card game built in. I that's a little bit of Moon Boy speculation, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I could see Vivi being more like as well like a toy shop, or like David said it many times before. Maybe that's how some of these brands view it. So I definitely could see Pokemon dropping something. I don't know if it's a trading
Right.
card game. I don't know if it's digital collectibles, but I think one day they will drop stuff on Vivi. I think that they'll look at Vivi as just an outlet to drop their IP and their brand. So
Interesting that you say that. Like that's a good point, because kind of reminds me of like Lamborghini. Like even though they had like the first on the blockchain and like somewhere else, they were like still like, oh well, Vivi's another, money making opportunity for us. Obviously, people love Lamborghini. Let's just capitalize and throw, and obviously it did very well. So I think you're right. Like even if let's say Pokemon did their own thing somewhere
I
else, they
got some
may.
alpha. I got some alpha for
Oh,
Lambo.
oh,
Um,
let's hear it.
so Lambo's wrapping up their 60th anniversary, and there's a reason why they dropped it on Vivi. So it's not like just a coincidence. That's more like a celebratory like drop. So
Whoa.
people, yeah, if you actually go, so there's an article written up about this on NFT Now, and they are going to reward their most consistent collectors. So I'm kind of speculating that we might see something on Vivi soon, but I know on mainly on they do have their own branded marketplace, but they're wrapping up their like 7th month epic road trip collection, if you will. And they are going to do like a commemorative NFT drop so soon. Again, I don't know what that
Mm.
looks like. Could be on their platform, but again, they dropped on Vivi. Like they dropped a full 3D car around their 60th anniversary. Like
Yeah.
that's a
Come on.
little, yeah. Like what? That's no coincidence that they're doing that on purpose.
Thanks for sharing that, Kyle. I appreciate that. And
Mhm.
I'm obsessed with it. Because I'm just like, man, I've always thought about having Lambo in the app, and I'm like, out of all the supercars, this is definitely like a top 5 one, right, to
Mhm.
have. And I was like, it's crazy that it's okay, first edition on. It's just cool. Like, I don't know, people are so like skeptical, but I'm like, man, like dropping that thing in augmented reality and like going through it, and like I'm like, it's pretty epic. So, and people are sharing a few thoughts on Pokemon. So people are just like, some people are saying Pokemon will do their own thing. They'll do something like Hero. Other people are saying like, Pokemon maybe not either or. They have so much power, they might be gamified and with behaviors, but also be collectibles. So I think like it's still all speculation at this point, but
Yeah.
it's exciting, right? And
Yeah.
yeah,
We can and we can kind of extrapolate things like in the macro. So if you're looking at Niantic, they're doing AR. They released their AR platform, as a matter of fact, their SDK. So any developer that's doing augmented reality can come into Niantic, use their actual like tech stack, and to build their own ecosystem and apps. So
mm,
Niantic's not just a closed thing anymore. So they're very much open because they're trying to compete with Facebook. They directly called out Meta, as a matter of fact, and said that like, hey, what we're building is refreshing. It's the AR metaverse because you can go outside, experience fun things. Well, guess what?
whoa,
Vivi again has the team that has been surrounded by Pokemon All Stars, including support from Jeremy Paddler, Uncle Jay. So I think there could be some connections there still. Like, of course, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if they could do packs and something like that, blind boxes, characters. I don't know. Like we'll see, but we're seeing a lot of like first appearances on Vivi. That's for sure.
okay, man, you're getting my blood boiling right now. You're opening. So this is interesting because right now a lot of people are talking about metaverses, but it just almost looks like a Grand Theft Auto game, like a PS2 version currently, right? For most of them, like that's generally
Mhm.
what it looks like. And I'm like, man, do I want to be sitting at a desk, doing that, or do I want to be like outside walking with my AR glasses on and looking up and seeing like the Niantic metaverse and making it like actually like within my reality? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like I'm off to go get Starbucks and I go on a 15-minute walk. And while I'm walking, I see Pokemon, I see different like things, or I see different people driving by and like their fake Lamborghinis. Like, I don't know, like that's where I'm getting like really interested about, who's going to win, because right
Right.
now it's like seeming like a really like a heavy game thing. But I think if you're going to appeal to the masses, if you can just put AR glasses on, because the majority of people don't play games, but everybody is going to walk around, everybody has a smartphone, and if AR glasses is that next iteration, then holy, like we could be onto something massive.
Yeah, and again, there's other big tech companies not only just saying like, "Hey, VR," they're saying it's combined. So again, it's not necessarily VR versus AR anymore. It's
Okay.
both. It's really
Right.
kind of like both because Nvidia, they're one of the biggest proponents right now of like what they're saying is like humans will kind of like portal in to the metaverse with both AR and VR. And what will happen too is over time AI is going to portal out to us with like screens and like robots. So like kind of what Edward Snowden came out in on that TED talk, like that infamous like little scooter thing with the monitor. Well,
Yeah.
imagine that's a AI or a robot and it like shuttles out to you. But how humans will go into the metaverse again, mixed reality, AR. They
Mm.
specifically named AR, so that's definitely a part of their strategy. Nvidia is one of the most well known companies that accelerate graphics via computers, and they accelerate AR platforms as well now. So we're
Wow.
seeing a lot of these big chip makers like AMD, Intel getting into the AR space because they're providing solutions to top level industries like medical, space exploration, engineering, and guess what? Those engineers need to be able to look at these models real time, and you can actually work on stuff real time now with some of these like tech platforms like Omniverse, for instance.
So damn cool, man. And I think I'm seeing it like even start to scale up at like universities. Like MIT recently did like that whole anatomical thing where they could view through the different parts of the body without actually having to dissect a corpse. Like so it's getting there, right? It's just a matter
Yeah.
of like this mass adoption. And what do you project the timeline to be before we start to see like metaverse not just being like a buzzword, you know? Like right now I hear
Yeah.
metaverse and it's usually like some nerdy person be like metaverse, and like people are like,
Yeah.
what does it mean, you know?
Yeah, we know Apple, they're coming out with their headset. That's going to be a big one. And again, we'll start to see this like heat up pretty quickly once like these companies start dropping their headsets, and they already kind of are, right, with the VR. But I think mixed reality is really going to like kind of bridge the narrative of,
Mm.
oh, shoot, like this can be in real life too. And we're seeing the trajectory here. We're seeing TV makers integrate Web3 into their TVs. Samsung, I mean, we're talking about major tech companies showcase Web3, Metaverse, AR, all this stuff at CES and like these big major platforms. So again, it's kind of coming to a head right now. Like we're seeing tech being built, and all these tech companies are starting to promote it and get excited about it. And it's coming to fruition as we're seeing it built currently right now. And the main thing is going to be just solving the supply chain issue. And once that's solved, it's kind of like game on. And I think that's why we noticed a delay with Apple a little bit there. And I
Mhm.
think Apple, if they get into the metaverse, that could be massive. So
Wow. Kyle, man, what a pleasure having you on, brother. Yeah, like what's funny is I always knew you were smart, but like once I get to talk to somebody and like just pick their brain, I'm like, man, this guy's really smart. So, I'm presuming you obviously have a bigger channel than me. You're obviously really out there. But if you do not call Kyle yet, make sure to go do so now. His description is in the or his channel is in the description below. And dude, it's been a long time coming. I've been super excited about this. And I was like, let me just ask, and then you were like, yeah, man, get me on anytime. So, I really would love to have you back too. And even
right
have like
on,
a
man.
few of us
Yeah.
here, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We should do like a, just a bunch of us here. And of course I need to have you on my channel, man. But it's been hecka busy this, working for Paul and these blockchain companies. But definitely we gotta have you on to my channel as well.
Well, you're living my dream, Kyle. So I'll be DMing you just asking
Yeah.
for advice. Hey, man, how do I slowly integrate into Web3 here? So get away from my hospital job. But yeah, man, thanks again, and looking forward to doing another one soon.
All right. Cheers, man. And
All right.
thanks everybody in the chat.
Yeah, thanks for showing up, everybody. And hopefully you're sniping after the drop. Take care.